Today, we're looking at a brown ink by Monteverde Brown Sugar. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. As always, there's timestamps down below in the description, so if you're in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Pilot Metropolitan with a 1.0 stub nib, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to standardize, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper in this first writing sample. There will be more writing samples on different papers later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have spots of shading, some of that peppering of the shading that I talked about in a previous ink, where there's spots that are darker, like part of the B in brown, the top of the F in fox, part of the P in jumps. There's spots that are a little bit darker, and it does stand out kind of nice. 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, those same spots of shading. The circle of the Q, while it got a little close, but there we get a little bit darker. The E in seconds, a little bit darker. The X, the bottom of the X on the left side in fox, a little bit darker. So that peppering of shade again. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both far left to far right aren't showing a lot of shading, although we do get some of that peppering up in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 8 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both are showing us no real color variation, and we're really not getting it. And then Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have that peppering of shade spots, those slightly darker areas like the top of the B in brown or the D to E in Monteverde. So there is some there. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. Some peppering of shade again, the K in quick, the L in lazy, the bottom of the P in jumps. 5 seconds to dry. Now, medium is darker than the extra fine, slightly darker, just like a tone darker. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shading, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine does show some color variation far left to far right. We do get that peppering. The medium shows none, and we got none. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this pink across the bottom that is really moving its way up. Now, the red that we're seeing, I think, is where the pink and the brown are joining, and that's just a blending area. I don't think that's its own tone, but we are getting a very red-leaning brown across the top. It's quite dark. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And if I did not mark this filter paper with the D, I would not be able to tell which one was which means I'm not really expecting much hold on for this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, you could use it in a note-taking situation if you wanted to highlight. It's the streaking sideways that does make me a little worrisome, but ultimately I can read it despite how much it's spread, despite all of that streaking, despite the feathering. I can read what's there, which says I could use it in a note-taking situation. Now, water is completely reactivating and lifting it off the page, meaning water is all that you're going to need to get this out of your pen. Pen flush does everything that water does, nothing more, because water does all that's needed. And the 1/3 bleach solution that you're not going to need, it does completely obliterate it from the page. I test the viscosity or flow using a tilt test, which I'm going to link the video showing how I do that. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Brown Sugar has a viscosity of 2.51, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those, and what I found is the average dry time is 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Brown Sugar has an average dry time of 8 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Brown Sugar, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I wanted a nice blue and chose the Atramentis Indigo. The second writing sample is done on Moji, Fabriano, and here we're looking at Moji notebook paper. Now we get no bleeding, very minor ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Now the extra fine is just a hair slighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 3 seconds to dry. That medium is the hair darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 6 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both are showing us no color variation, and we're not getting any. So here was one that when I first did them, I never in these writing samples did the whole stub, extra fine, and medium because I always expected horrible results, and I was wrong. This is a military memoranda pad, and we get no bleeding, no ghosting. This cheap paper handles ink very well. That medium at the top has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and only 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we didn't get any. And last up is Fabriano. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we got none. And that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Monteverde's Brown Sugar? It's a very nice dark brown that does offer moments of shading. Now as a brown, it is slightly darker than I normally go for. However, I did enjoy using it all the time, so I like this one even though it's darker than normal for me. So what nib and pen is going to give the best writing experience with this ink? A wetter pen is going to put a much darker version of it down, which isn't unpleasant to look at, but a dry stub is going to put a lighter version and allow some of the shading to come through. If you've enjoyed this video, remember, I like thumbs up, you like thumbs up, everybody likes thumbs up. Unless you didn't like it, then give me the thumbs down. Both are good. Thanks for watching.